Yo, what's going on, guys? Your boy Fanatic and I am back with another video. This time we are going to be doing another schedule preview, this time of the Michigan Wolverines. So Michigan, during their 4 years under Jim Harbaugh, has been a good team, but not a great team. And Michigan fans are starting to get more and more impatient and wanting more and more success. And whether Jim Harbaugh can bring them that or not, it's going to be interesting to see. That's the storyline of this season for Michigan. Can they get over the hump of Ohio State? Urban Meyer's gone. The game against Ohio State's going to be at home. They have to win that game. Most Michigan fans that I've talked to said they don't care if they go undefeated. If they lose to Ohio State, it's a failure. And they don't care if they go like 6-5 or 5-6. If they beat Ohio State, it's a victory. So the season seems to kind of culminate in that game against Ohio State. So let's see if they can do it. But let's dive into their schedule. Starts off the year against Middle Tennessee. I don't think I have to explain this one too much. Obviously, I think Michigan is going to come out victorious in this game. Middle Tennessee doesn't really have any talent that can compare to a team like Michigan. So Michigan starts off the year with the win over Middle Tennessee. So moving on against Army. I think this is a much more realistic possible loss for them. But still, I'm going to go with Michigan on this, and here's why. I think that this will be kind of a low-scoring game for the first half, a close game for the first half, and maybe even 3 quarters. But I think that Michigan will find a way to kind of create some separation in the second half. They have more depth than a team like Army, as you would expect them to. So I think Michigan is going to beat Army something like 30-10 or 30-13 or something like that, and head to 2-0 on the year. So coming off of a bye, they are at Wisconsin on the road. Another game that'll kind of be low scoring, especially for the first half, and Michigan might kind of take it away in the second half. I don't think this game will be as dominant for Michigan as the Army game was, but I still do think Michigan is clearly the better team than Wisconsin. Wisconsin's in kind of a mini rebuild right now. These are two very similar teams, except Michigan has far elite talent than Wisconsin. So I think Michigan is going to win this game by 10 or 14 points, a 2-possession win for the Wolverines. So Michigan heads back home to face Rutgers. Obviously, Michigan's going to win this game. Rutgers is one of the worst teams in college football right now. They are in the middle of a huge rebuild. It's going to be many years before they can start competing with teams like Michigan and Ohio State, if ever. Rutgers' ceiling, I think, is actually pretty low, so I think Michigan, once again, is going to get another win on the schedule. So they stay home to face Iowa. I think this is a very possible loss for them. You know, Iowa's kind of, again, a similar team to them. These are two physical teams that like to control the football. So it comes down to coaching, and I think Michigan has better coaching than Iowa. Don't get me wrong, I think Jim Harbaugh is overrated. Not incredibly overrated, but a little bit overrated. I think he gets more hype than he probably deserves, or that his records at Michigan deserve. I'm not denying his talent in the past, but just from his time at Michigan, I think he's kind of an overrated coach. But back on topic with Iowa, I think that Michigan is definitely the better team with the better coaching staff, so I think it's going to be another kind of 2-possession win, just like they had over Wisconsin. So Michigan heads back on the road to face Illinois. This game's just probably going to be a boring game, a close first half game. Illinois will be at home. They'll be fired up. This is a big game for them. But in the end, I think, and this is kind of a sandwich game for Michigan. But in the end, I think the Michigan's going to pull away for the second half. Michigan's definitely a pull-away second-half team. They wear their opponents down for the first half. Usually it's competitive for the first half. And then their depth just wears them out in the second half, and they usually run all over them and start getting more explosive plays, and that's where they get most of their wins for. So Michigan starts off the year 6-0. So Michigan stays on the road, this time to face Penn State. I think definitely one of the most likely losses for Michigan this year. I'm not super high on Penn State. A lot of people are higher on Penn State than I am, but I am going to give Penn State the win here for a couple of reasons. I think they're just about the same as Michigan. You know, I think Michigan might be a little bit better, but from a coaching perspective, from most perspectives, these two teams are very even. Michigan at this point is going to be undefeated, have all the confidence in the world. It's not going to be a must-win for them. Penn State, if they want to have some success this year, at this point, it probably will be a must-win because they'll always have like 1 or 2 losses by this point. So I think this is going to be a must-win for Penn State. It's at home for Penn State. All the scenarios point to Penn State getting the victory here, and I'm going to agree with all those scenarios. I'm going to give Penn State the 1-possession win in an incredibly close game. So coming off of one loss to another, I am going to give Notre Dame the win over Michigan again, as Michigan loses in back-to-back weeks to Penn State and Notre Dame. That's not really anything to be ashamed of. Penn State's a top 15 team, and Notre Dame is a top 10 team, so you're losing to 2 top 15 teams in back-to-back weeks. That's not terrible. Obviously, it's not ideal, but it's not season-destroying. The reason I think Notre Dame's going to win, well, one, I think Notre Dame's a little bit better. Their coaching's a little bit better. Their quarterback is a little bit better. They're just a little bit better than Michigan. It is at Michigan, so that's kind of a big disadvantage for Notre Dame. But Michigan's coming off of a rough loss to Penn State. They might not recover immediately. Their athletes are going to be very tired because Michigan has trouble with teams with a lot of athletes, and it takes a lot out of them. So they might not be fully prepared for Notre Dame in this game. And I think Notre Dame's going to take advantage of that. Notre Dame already probably has a loss by this point, and they know because their weak schedule, they can't afford to lose more than one. So again, it's another must-win, and Michigan, once again, will lose. So Michigan heads on the road to face Maryland. I think Michigan's going to get back on track with this game. Again, it's going to be kind of a close first-half game. Michigan will just wear them out in the first half with their physicality. And much like they do with a lot of lesser teams, they'll run all over them and run the football down their throats in the second half and separate and win with a comfortable kind of blowout victory over Maryland to get back on track. So next to Ohio State, probably their biggest rival, Michigan State, their in-state rival. They are at home here, so I think that gives them another advantage. But again, Michigan, I feel like, is just the far superior team than Michigan State. I'm not a believer in Michigan State at all. Michigan's just better in every single category than Michigan State. That's why, and they're at home. That's why I think Michigan's going to get probably a 14-point or 17-point win. Michigan State just isn't as good as Michigan. They can't recruit on the level as Michigan. They can't coach on the level as Michigan. Therefore, their talent isn't on level with Michigan. That's why I'm going to give Michigan the clean win here. I don't get why I'm saying the clean win. The clear win over Michigan State. So Michigan heads back on the road to face Indiana. I think this is a very possible loss because it's a sandwich game between their two biggest rivals. I think this is going to be an ugly, low-scoring game for 3 quarters. It might be 3-3 or 10-3 heading into the fourth, and Michigan's going to be able to sneak away with the victory. I think they'll make just enough big plays to defeat Indiana in a very, very rough game, very ugly win for Michigan. It's a kind of a sandwich game. They're not going to be looking forward to this game, and this is prime time for Indiana to pull off a huge upset over Michigan. Unfortunately for Indiana, even though they're catching Michigan at their absolute worst, Michigan's talent is still just a little bit too much, and they push them over. So on to the biggest game of the year by a mile. It is Ohio State. They're at home. There's no more Urban Meyer. There's no Dwayne Haskins. This is a must-win for Harbaugh and Michigan. If they can't beat Ohio State here, they never will beat Ohio State. So I think this game is going to be a very close game. Michigan's going to have a better shot than they did last year, not just because it's at home and because there's no Urban Meyer, because there's no Dwayne Haskins. Dwayne Haskins was amazing last year. We don't know who the Ohio State quarterback is, so that's a very deep concern for Ohio State leading into this ball game. I think if Ohio State does not have an elite quarterback like J.T. Barrett or Dwayne Haskins, they might severely struggle against an elite defense like Michigan. The problem is Michigan athletes, can they compete with Ohio State's athletes? That's the one main concern heading into this game. I think Michigan's going to learn from their lesson last year. They're going to game plan around the elite athletes at Ohio State, and I think they're going to get the close one-possession victory over Ohio State going 10-2 on the year, and finally reaching over that Ohio State hump. So I also think they're probably going to win the Big Ten. I'm not sure there's any legit contenders against Michigan that can probably beat them. There's just not really any, especially because Penn State, Ohio State, and Michigan are all in the same league in the Big Ten. So I think Michigan's going to go 11-2, win the Big Ten. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs, but I do think they make the Rose Bowl, which I think for Jim Harbaugh is a huge step, not just because they made the Rose Bowl, but more specifically because they got over the Ohio State hump. And if they can make some more big-time recruits, if they can get some more athletes on this team, I think they can eventually make it to the playoffs. This year, I don't think they're quite good enough. I think they have too rough of a schedule, because it is a pretty difficult schedule for Michigan. But I think they make the most out of it, beat Ohio State, win the Big Ten, and hey, maybe even win the Rose Bowl, I don't know. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Michigan fans, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, or just any college football fan. I will check out all my other schedule previews and college football content. Have a happy 4th of July. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.